Today on TimesCast, U.S. officials make a last-minute effort to avert a United Nations vote on Palestinian statehood.
The Palestinians are expected to respond that they have waited long enough.
Consumer advocate and Harvard University professor Elizabeth Warren announces a run for U.S. Senate in Massachusetts.
Sony are putting up $5 million of their money to back a completely unknown winner.
And the fall television season begins Sunday.
The whole thing's a gamble.
Two senior American officials are arriving in Israel to see the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. They will then go to Ramallah, where they will see Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president. They're here in an effort to try to slow down this process of membership in the United Nations. It's entirely unclear where this process is going. President Abbas of the Palestinian Authority has not made his final decision about what he wants to do. It's whether to go to the Security Council, which would grant him full membership in the UN, but hit an American veto and likely delay, or go straight to the General Assembly, where he is assured of a majority, but he will only get partial membership. He'll be called a non-member state. The American goal is to get Abbas to not actually go forward to the United Nations right now. That may be an unrealistic goal, but it's clearly where they're focused. They're fundamentally here to say, this is a process that you are beginning whose end you don't know. And the Israelis are also eager to make sure this thing doesn't go forward. The Palestinians are expected to respond that they have waited long enough, that they need the help of the world in order to get the Israelis to do what they say hasn't happened so far.
33 مرة استعملوا الفيتو ولو صار كمان 33 مرة راح ناخذ حقنا وراح نبني دولتنا وراح نبني الأسس الديمقراطية وراح نكون مثال للديمقراطية في العالم.
My guess is this is going to go to the very end. In fact, it is quite possible that we will not know what path President Abbas has chosen until he speaks at the General Assembly of the United Nations on the 23rd of September, a week from Friday.
Consumer advocate Elizabeth Warren entered the Massachusetts Democratic primary for the United States Senate. If successful, she would oppose Republican Senator Scott Brown for Ted Kennedy's old seat.
Elizabeth Warren, bright and early this morning, showed up at a T station in South Boston, waited as commuters came up the escalator from the train to shake each and every hand, say, "Hi, I'm Elizabeth Warren. It's great to meet you. I'm running for the United States Senate and I'd like your vote."
I know how to stand my ground, and I'll do that for the United States Senate.
Symbolically, it was important for Elizabeth Warren to immediately dive in and start shaking hands and meeting people around the state, partly because the Democrat who ran against Scott Brown in 2010 was thought to not do a good job at that. It's thought that that's a big reason she lost the race. This is going to be a big race and a heated race, probably a really expensive race, because Scott Brown's seat is considered really crucial to win back for the Democrats if they're going to retain control of the Senate.
Our U.S. Senator Scott Brown.
Scott Brown remains really popular here. He has about $10 million in the bank so far, which is a really formidable amount. He himself, like her, says he came up from very little and is a defender of the middle class. That's going to be a key issue in this race, who is thought to be a bigger defender of the middle class. And I think that's what it may come down to in the end.
Citizens of 2149.
And in their fall TV lineups, networks bet on big budget shows.
Welcome to Terra Nova, folks.
So Bill, we're a few days away from the start of the new fall TV season. The kickoff is Monday, and there'll be a couple dozen new shows vying for our attention. What do you think the storylines are going to be going into the fall?
Well, I think the big question is how dominant is Fox going to be? They have such a strong lineup. For ABC, it's going to be, can they restore themselves when some of their old shows are fading? For NBC, can they find any momentum at all? And for CBS, you know, they've been very stable, but can their crime lineup and their comedy lineup still work?
And you mentioned Fox right off the bat. They're taking these two big swings, it seems like. X Factor, the new singing competition from Simon Cowell.
I walked away from the #1 show in America to launch a brand new show.
And Terra Nova, this dinosaur drama. Both of these are really expensive, right?
Well, the X Factor is expensive because of its talent, but the Terra Nova show is an incredibly expensive show with all kinds of special effects, and they got a lot of money on the table on that show. If it doesn't work, it will be highly costly. They also have a very strong comedy called A New Girl with Zooey Deschanel, who's a big star.
I'm kind of emotional right now because of the breakup. I'll probably be watching Dirty Dancing at least 6 or 7 times a day.
It seems that there's a lot of comedies on the schedule this year, maybe more so than last year.
Comedy is very, very big. I think you're going to see a lot of effort to restore comedy because economically it's really sound. They can keep selling it. I love a new show on ABC called Suburgatory.
Welcome to Suburgatory.
Which I think is a sleeper of the year and I think will get a lot of attention.
And there's 2 shows on CBS that apparently tested really well, right? This sitcom Two Broke Girls.
Yeah, I think that's a potential hit. It's very well scheduled. It's on Monday night at 8:30. Very promising show. And then they have a show called Person of Interest, which is another of their crime shows, but it's from J.J. Abrams, has a little spin on it.
The guy that did Lost.
Exactly.
Bad things happen to people every day. You can't stop them. What if you could?
Seems like every year there's 1 or 2 dramas like that are almost guaranteed or destined to succeed. And maybe Person of Interest is that show.
Yeah, but Person of Interest is a very tough schedule there against the X Factor. Everything against the X Factor looks like a question mark because that thing can be overpowering.
So basically this fall it's Simon Cowell and then everybody else.
I think that's the big storyline and I think he probably will do very well.
I have got no idea what's going to happen, and I think you just got to enjoy the ride.